Hey, StreamYard, YouTube, Instagram. We are here, the Holy Trinity. What's going on, y'all? This is Benaj of The Way. And we are here for another Wealth Wednesday. So hopefully you guys are doing well. Hopefully all is well in your worlds. So today I wanted to actually talk about two things. First, we're going to talk about relationships, a book that I'm reading that I'm going to definitely recommend to everyone when it comes to relationships because it's very important. I think looking at how in a marriage things grow, right? You start off at a certain place with someone, right? And it's really important that you continue to develop with them because if you don't, they can outgrow you or you can outgrow them. And that's not just in marriages, that's also in friendships. That's in, work situations and relationships. That's in business partnerships. Sometimes you can outgrow things. So it's important to understand the rubric of a friendship, the rubric of a relationship, and why it's important to continuously grow with the folks around you, right? So that's one thing. So we're going to talk about that. Actually, today we had I was mentioning this on Instagram, so I'll mention it to you guys. I had someone today come to my door in reference to a nonprofit that actually helps with giving legal aid and assistance to folks who don't have certain things. So I want to see if I can pull up the donations, slsomething.org. Man, I wrote it down in my notepad and I don't want to pull this off to go look at it because if I do that, I'm going to be mad. But anyway, they're a nonprofit. Hopefully the young lady that came to the door, I know she added us. So if she jumps on board, that's great. Definitely just a donation with them. And, you'll get philanthropy opportunities in many different ways. Sometimes it'll come to your doorstep. Sometimes it'll come in the manner of something that you enjoy or something that you like to see furthered in the community. Anytime you get a choice to do that, definitely take the shot and go do that because you don't know who you're helping when you do things like that. All right, so we are going to dig into the topic of today. And I'm going to pull them up on the web browser. So if you're following us, you can hit the link in my bio and you can go over to our YouTube stream. That'll get you over to the YouTube channel where we're going to be showing our screen. And I'm going to pull up topic of today. All right, the book is called Lovebusters by Willard D. Harley. Now, if you're not familiar with this book, I would definitely suggest if you're in a marriage to definitely look at this book because it is a book that talks to you about important things. Like, actually, let me see if I can pull up a screenshot here. I know I recently had sent a screenshot of the chapters because they were just very intriguing. So take a look at this, y'all. All right. So the book is called Lovebusters. It's by a gentleman by the name of Willard F. Harley. And he is a gentleman that actually writes several books about marriages and protecting your marriage. But this book is specifically about things that destroy your marriage. So what I'm going to focus on today in the beginning of this conversation is these things called love busters. So what's a love buster? A love buster is essentially something that can take your love units and literally destroy them. It's pretty much accurate to the name. Let me pull up my window here so you can see the screen. This is the book here, y'all. If you guys are on our YouTube stream, this is the book here. It's called Lovebusters by Willard F. Harley, and he has an entire website that's designated to this. There's questionnaires, all kinds of stuff. But the reason why, again, this book is really amazing and why I recommend it to folks who are not even married. I recommend this to single folk because what the book is showing me is that the habits that you build when you're dating someone are the habits that you're going to have in the marriage, right? So if you are continuously defensive and using that as a reference point to then lash out and be abusive, then that's going to continue in your marriage. And there are a lot of folks who don't realize that the little things that they do from moment to moment impact something called love units. So like every time someone in your life does something positive for you, that's a positive love unit. Anytime they do something negative, that's a negative love unit. And you continue doing the song and dance. This happens for your entire relationship. Right. And there comes a point in time where if you don't continue to look at this balance and do right by that balance, folks can fall out of love with you. Simply put, they can fall out of love with you. So it's really important that you understand that the amount of deposits that you make into someone's love bank, that's going to determine how much love they have for you. So before we get into this book, and we're gonna talk about this in a second, I just want to talk about the holiday that just went by. I know we call it Thanksgiving, but I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Just so you guys know, that's not something I celebrate because I've come to a new understanding of how that holiday even began, and I'm not down with all of that. However, it's a time to give gratitude, right? So for me, when I think about giving gratitude and I think about all the things that have happened in 2021, things that, were good, positive things, things that were negative, and horrible things. Let's see who's in the room here. What's going on? Baby girl Mel's, what's up? I am Dex, what's going on? The podcast is on here. Elliot Major, what's popping? Command 85. Oh, Command 805. What's going on, man? Good to see you up in here. And yeah, it's Willie. What's going on, sir? Nice to have you with us. So, during this holiday, it's one thing to understand the nature of giving thanks and being grateful and showing gratitude. It's another thing to remember that, there are folks who didn't make it to this, right? And because of that, it's important to kind of continue to be grateful, but to also pay that forward, right? One of the things that I learned recently, I learned about sage. I learned about the purification methods of sage and how to use that in your life, how to use incense, frankincense, myrrh, other types of fragrances that have been used in ancient times for thousands of years, right? And it's used to, again, purify, clean, and create an aroma that can actually have spiritual ramifications. So there are certain fragrances that once you smell it, it can put you in a state of love and bliss. Or there's other ones that once you smell it, it can put you in a state of anger or like fierceness. So like your nostrils are also a doorway to spiritual enlightenment as well. So I'm learning these things as we go. And it's important that when I think about gratitude and being grateful, one thing I'm always grateful for are the ancestors and the folks who came before us. And not the ones that aren't even ancestors yet, just the elders, I've always been the guy that every time I go to a barbecue with my boys, I'm hanging out with their aunties and uncles because I just want to hear their life stories. I want to hear what they're about. I want to hear how they lived, the jokes that they have, the funny things that they have to say, their little isms, because they're not going to be here forever. And I want to make sure that I'm absorbing as much of their energy and wisdom as I can, because our elders are the ones that line us up for, future success and growth. So definitely thankful and grateful for the elders in my life right now. All of you. I can't name you guys off one by one because if I do that, our podcast would end with thousands of names. But definitely wanted to say I'm thankful and grateful for you guys. And also thankful and grateful for this title. Like I'm wearing a shirt right now. I got a shirt coming, an I Am Dad shirt coming. So when I get that shirt, I'm going to be rocking that too. That's the nonprofit of my buddy, the Mind Investor, Quentin Meziton. So his group, they are defeating autism daily. It's a beautiful thing. So we'll talk about them. And I'll probably have him on to actually discuss I Am Dad and what that nonprofit is all about. Bringing awareness to autism, but also real life ways of actually solving, having your children become independent. And these are the types of things and people that I've been so grateful to have in 2021. Like literally folks who I've never known before who are coming into my life with amazing qualities, business ideas, energy, all that stuff, right? So definitely grateful and thankful for guys like him and his amazing wife. Thankful for you guys. And definitely want to do a quick shout out to all of the folks who, I grew up with. I know my boys. Actually, one of my boys, I had a conversation with him last weekend, I believe. And it was a great talk. I haven't spoken to him in a while, and we just decided to call him, and we were talking for like a couple hours. And it just goes to show you the beauty and the value of the folks that you have in your life that are genuine. I cannot speak enough about how important it is. I'm showing you I got a little cut, showing my little cut on the screen. I got to be more professional. It's like, cut. The people in your life who are genuine and always there for you, right? Like my buddy, him and I, we grew up together. Our parents were basically family. So we grew up as like basically cousins, but more so brothers. And, we've had that relationship for almost 30 years, and it's beautiful because over that time, we've both grown. We both learned a lot about life, about each other, about our families. We've been through some tough times together. We've been through some great times together. And it's one of those things that I'm always grateful for, is having that reference, because a lot of folks don't have 30-year friendships, or people that genuinely would look out for them if something were to happen tomorrow, right? I could literally count on both hands the people that would be at my hospital bed if I got sent to the emergency room with some sort of dire news, right? Like, I can count them on two hands. How many people can say that? So to me, that's a beautiful thing where, you can be thankful and grateful for the folks that are around you, because your community that you build is literally the support line that your family will have for generations to come, because those relationships are what is going to fund that. So this topic today about, Mythbusters and Lovebusters, sorry, is important, because again, all of these things, if you do these things, you're going to destroy the potential for you to have those types of long-term relationships. And when I think about even my friendships, the stuff that this book will talk about actually talks to the friendships that I have, because we actually follow the same rules. We do the same things. Like, for example, in this book, it talks about the 6 love busters, which are selfish demands, disrespectful judgments, angry outbursts, dishonesty, annoying habits, and independent behavior, right? Now, I know after, like, I've been through I'm almost unfinished this book. So like, I'm still almost done. So I'm in the process, but I've gone through all of these ones so far. And these things are things that I do with my friends. Like, we don't demand selfishly of each other. Like, I'll never ask my buddy, hey, by the way, you must do this, or you need to do that, this, that, and the third. Never that. We never even do that. Like, we'll ask each other stuff. We don't disrespect each other unless it's like Madden and someone says something that's funny. And I'm like, hey, and I'll make fun of you because we have a friendship like that. We used to call each other, and this is not PC, but we used to call each other whore all the time. And growing up, it was funny because people that would stumble into our conversations would hear us calling each other, these grown men, like it's men talking to each other, calling each other whore. But when we would say it, we've already changed the meaning of it. Like, when I say that word in reference to my boys, like my close boys, I got 4 close boys. When I say it to them, it's like saying the word, I love you. And it's not even like that word. No, it's just the word. I just say the word. And like, sometimes we answer the phone with that word. That's how funny we've used it, because it's just, again, words take on the meanings that you give them, just so you know. You could say I love you to somebody all you want, but if you don't feel that word, and if you're not saying it genuinely, that doesn't mean love. We get to define everything that we use in this life, which is similar to when they talk about the word, the N word, right? It was designed to make a distinction between, blacks with culture and blacks that were slaves, right? Because if you saw a black person from Algeria or from Nigeria or from, Egypt or wherever, and they were black, you would just say they're Egyptian, right? But if you see a slave that is black, you just call them the N-word, because you're not referencing a culture. You're not referencing where they're from. You're not referencing Tanzania or wherever. You're just saying you are black, and my derogatory term for black is this, right? And what did rappers do in the 90s and 80s? They took that word, flipped it around, and made it into a gesture that they use amongst each other. And if anyone else that wasn't a black person used that gesture, they would possibly get popped in the mouth, maybe beat up, lose their shoes. Like, anything's possible if you say something like that to a brother that's you don't have to be, part of the culture. So, we take words like this all the time, and we reuse them and make them into what we want, right? So, I mean, I don't know why I'm going off this tangent, but moral of the story is, when it comes to, disrespectful judgments, angry outbursts, dishonesty, annoying habits, like, all of these things in my friendships, I know are important things. Like, if I had a buddy who was always, yelling at the top of his lungs and being very disrespectful when he was upset, whatever, that wouldn't be my buddy for long, because I don't do that to them. There's a level of honor and respect that I have amongst my friends, that even if we're completely upset with each other, there's always a level of respect that we keep it at. We never go below the belt when it comes to that stuff, because we're family. We don't even do that. Yet I know I have people that are in my family that I have seen do that to members of my family. And I'm like, yo, that's not okay. So there are things that once you start living a certain way, the energy that you bring is going to continue to permeate into all of the relationships that you have. And before you know it, you're going to end up having healthy relationships across the board. And it comes to a point where you get so good at this that you don't even have to worry about people coming into your life and whether or not they're toxic or not. You just do your thing. And before you know it, the toxic people just disappear. Like, they actually just leave you. They melt away like ice on a beach. They just disappear. And you can't be mad because they just weren't supposed to be there. Bev, what's popping? How you doing, Auntie? Good to see you. So yeah, so like, and the opposite likewise is true. If you have a bunch of positive folks in your life, what happens is that they actually start to improve your life. And they improve your life by not just contributing their energy to you, but then you start doing things like working out together, doing things like having, group dates where you go together to something that you both can enjoy, or you go to their house for Thanksgiving, or, like there is there's a continuation of that energy when you're around the right people. And I think in 2022, it's going to be even more pertinent for you to maintain your relationships in a healthy manner, no matter where they were before. Maintain them in a healthy manner. And this is a work in progress. Like, we're all working on this. Like, I'm working on this. I don't have relationships down pat. I know we talk about it all the time because it's important. Who else is talking about relationships on IG? Everyone on here is talking about how to make money quickly, which we were talking about before too. Talking about the latest news and the artists that may have passed away, or whatever is in pop culture, like the NBA playoffs, NFL, all these things people talking about. Who's talking about you becoming a better person and looking at the relationships around you? Like, who's talking about that? We talk about it because it's important. It's going to be a very critical thing for you to have. And I think what really pushes this to the forefront for me is this shirt that I'm wearing, right? Of all the titles I've ever had, friend, best friend, husband, son, uncle, lover, student, all of these titles I've had in my lifetime, right? This one is the one that I hold true, hold the dearest to me, right? And I didn't even buy this shirt. My wife bought this shirt. So shout out to Alexia Fichuku Igwe for buying me a great shirt. This shirt to me signifies a lot of the important aspects of why I need to become a better man, right? Because there is a lovely little gem napping. So you won't hear her crying right now. She's napping. That when I look at her and when I see how brilliant she is and who she's going to become, it's like, wow, it is my job to make sure that you are protected the entire time in your hope until you're able to protect yourself. It's my job to protect you. And it's my job to teach you and to train you to be better than me. And I feel like that can only come from a space where you understand that this title is not even about me. Like, I want to improve myself to be better so that I can be the best dad for my daughter. But it's bigger than just like something that I'm doing for myself. It's like, no, like her generation, I call them the closers. They're the ones that are going to close this whole ship down. They're the ones that are going to change everything. And we're birthing them. So all of the kids that you have right now that are between the ages of just newly born, shout out to a few of my buddies who just had a son. Congratulations. So shout out to all the new parents out here. All of the children that are being born right now are literally the closers. Because in our lifetime, we're going to see all of this come to an end. All of the nonsense, all of the systemic foolishness, everything that you see around you in your lifetime, which if you're my age bracket, 83, in your lifetime, in my lifetime, all of this ends. And guess who ends it? Them. The little rugrats you see running around with all this extra intelligence. So to me, there's no more important role in my life right now than being the best role model for my daughter and for any other future children that I have, adopted or biological, because that's what it's about now. That's the race. The race is how many kids can you have? How many of these spirits can we bring back to this plane to then finish this? And that seems like a very interesting thing, right? So let's talk about that. So what do you guys think? I know a lot of you are religious folk and you guys go to church, so you guys have an understanding of religion and spirit and all that stuff. What do you think happens to folks when they die? What do you think happens? Do you think that folks, when they die, they are sleeping? And then at some point, Jesus will come and they'll wake up from their sleep and meet him in the sky? Like, do you guys think that's going to happen? Some of you can put in the chat if you want to. I'm watching it. Do some of you think that when folks pass away, that your spirit never dies and it just changes forms? Maybe it becomes a tree. Maybe it becomes a plant or water or vapor or cloud, or becomes a part of the earth and continues to live in that form? Or do you believe that your spirit is a energy that has a mind and that has a godlike personality that literally is always in existence and has always existed since the beginning of time? What do you think? You know, because when you think about your belief system, right? Ask yourself a question. What culture do you know that has been given to anybody that didn't originate from that place? So think of any culture across the planet. Like think about Asian cultures, cultures over here in South America or in North America, which is called Turtle Island, by the way, or cultures in Egypt, cultures in the North. You know, all of these cultures have a belief system, right? That pretty much originated with their forefathers, right? Ancestrally, and that's the thing. And there are artifacts and ancient temples and ancient deities that are spoken to from these cultures, right? But when have you ever seen a culture imprinted on a group of people that didn't look like you and me? Right. And where I'm going with this is that we're gonna talk, y'all. We're gonna have a conversation here because I feel like, these types of conversations need to be more mainstream, and we need to like start discussing why we believe what we believe. Like, why do you believe what you believe? What makes you believe that? What makes you think that is true? Right? There is an ideology that starts with the concept of self. And the closer you get to self, the more love you have to give, the more understanding of life you have, the more knowledge you can gain because there is an inherent wisdom that's ancestrally and genetically encoded in your body that if you can get deeper into it, you'll actually have answers and not just have questions. And to me, there has been a lot of distraction. There's been a lot of things that have taken your energy away from getting closer to your truth and closer to, that quiet voice inside of your spirit. And I am here to let you know that the closer you get to that person, um, the more answers you get. And the more answers you get, the more you start to question things. I know you guys have seen the movie The Matrix, right? You remember Neo's story where, he was plugged in the Matrix and he had no idea, right? And then someone unplugged him and he looked around and he was like, what? I'm a battery pack? Like, what's happening here? And then he started having powers. He would go back into the Matrix, and instead of him just being another gigacode, he became someone that could change the code. Call him a virus, but he was really just a person that was unlocked and able to do magical things in that space that actually translated outside of that space as well, right? He actually unlocked himself. Okay, cool. Where do you think these concepts come from? Do you think that these concepts are just created in a producing, meeting with a couple of directors that want to just write a really good script? Or do you think that people put to movie ideas and concepts that resonate with you because there's reality woven into the fabric of that entire concept, right? The Matrix is a perfect example. I remember watching that when it first came out, all of the trilogy, right? And then going back and reading and doing more inner work and understanding more about self and more about my truth and my history and connecting with elders and things like that. And now I watched it again and I'm like, yo, I have a different lens. And I believe that's what happens when you start knowing and stop believing. When you start knowing and you stop believing, one can lead to the other, because we've had discussions on Clubhouse about this, where believing is like the juice for you getting that energy to know things, right? But it's not the same as knowing. Like, I know that this is my hand because it's right here. I can see it. I can touch my face. It's my hand. I know it's here. But if my hand's behind my back, do I know it's my hand? I mean, if I'm connected to my body and if I know that I can wiggle my fingers, which I'm doing off camera, see, I'm wiggling my fingers. I know I'm wiggling it. You just can't see it. Is it wiggling? It is wiggling right now, but you can't see it, right? That's how I view life. The closer you are to self and connecting to who you are, you'll feel your fingers wiggling back here when others say that there's no hand, that I'm a one-armed man. People can just see me. They're seeing that I have one arm, but I know that I have two and I have fingers that are wiggling, right? That is literally a basic example of what it means to go from believing that you have wiggling fingers to knowing that you have wiggling fingers. You didn't change. Your anatomy didn't change. All that changed was your perception, right? So now if I do this and I wiggle my fingers here, now everyone can perceive that I have two hands and that I can wiggle my fingers. But this in our example is at the end when all the information becomes revealed and everyone can see the truth, right? And they can see where the fabrications are, where everything went off the rails. We can see all this. Everyone can see when it's here. But the question is, can you see when it's here? And can you believe what you know instead of believing what you think you know, what you think you see, right? That simple analogy is how I view 2021. This is all smoke and mirrors. And here's my test for you, right? So folks who are listening this far, here's my test. I want you to answer me in the chat. In what direction does the sun rise right now? Does it rise in the east, in the north, in the south, or in the west? I bet you don't even know. And you know why I know you don't know? Because you've been so distracted that you haven't even seen the patterns of the sun. In our ancient times, they studied the stars. All they did every day, they looked up all the time because they knew that looking up gave them clues as to what would be happening with the seasons, with their crops, with their life cycles. They actually would have children based on the cycles of the sun and the stars. You would literally conceive children based on the stars. We build structures based on the stars' positioning so that you would know in what generation that structure was built. Why do all that? Why do all that? Because it's literally another clock up there. And if you're connected, you'll know what that's for. But right now, oh, I think my wife put something in the chat. Did you see what she put in, guys? So she just put in the south. Did you know that? Auntie, it does not rise in the east right now. So here's my test for you guys. Tomorrow morning, if you have the resilience to do this, check and see when the sun is supposed to rise. Go outside and look at it. And you're going to see what direction the sun is rising from. And then when you see what direction the sun is rising from, I want you to ask yourself, what the hell does that mean when it comes to celestially where we are as a planet? Because again, we were told that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, right? We've been given that talk a very long time. We've been told that the sun is a ball that's spinning at a certain amount of degrees, miles per hour, and that is also flying through the universe at a certain amount of mileage per hour as well, right? And it's on an axis, so it's tilted. So we're moving back and forth on an axis, okay? We're spinning around it. And we believe that. And that's fine. If you believe that, if you don't, it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is your level of perception. What matters to me is, do you notice the small things, and are you taking attention? Are you paying attention to that? Have you noticed the clouds lately? Have you seen the patterns? If you look up, and I'm going to recommend that everybody start looking up. Look up into the clouds. Look up and see what they look like, their shapes, their forms. Look at their density. Like, there is a level of perception that once you go down this road, you start seeing and perceiving things at a higher level. Consider it similar to a baby and an adult. I give my daughter my remote control for my PlayStation. She sees it as a chew toy, right? Remote control. She doesn't know that I can get her Netflix, get her Elmo and Sesame Street, that can be a game that she can play. She can go online. She can download stuff. She has no idea of any of those things, but she's holding the controller that has access to all of that. But because of her perception and because of her age, she doesn't know all the things it can do, right? Now, if she had the mind of me as a 30 plus, person, she would not only know what that controller does, but she'd be able to maneuver it into many different areas on the system and do all kinds of stuff, right? That level of difference is literally what you can experience within a year if you start tapping into inside of you, because it's going to open up the ability to see and to perceive things differently, similar to the Matrix, where now you're seeing that life isn't just things, that these are actually, they're supposed to be there, and they're indicators. So when you're on this path, you understand. Oh, by the way, that's a sign. Today, these the folks that came to my door to canvas for this nonprofit that helps and gives legal advice to folks, they they were collecting donations. And, like you said, someone your age typically donates X amount of dollars every single month. What number will you pick? I'm like, I don't care what other people donate. I'm like, I'll pick whatever number feels nice to me. So I'm like, okay, what month is it? December. And today's the 1st. I'm like, so 12 plus 1 is 13. That's what I'll donate. It's very simple to me. I was like, I'll just donate $13, $13 a month, whatever that turns out to. Like we take, American Express, ACH. I'm like, American Express, that's fine. It's business. Philanthropy, right? 13 is usually an unlucky number in some cultures. And in some cultures, it's a blessed number. So to me, again, that's just a simple example of how numbers are just thrown into your space. But there is the reason why I'm referencing that is because I'm at a place now where the little voice I listen to. So the little voice says 12 plus 1 is 13. Just do that number. Okay, I'll do that. There comes a point where you can ask that little voice inside of you what to wear today. And that voice will say, oh, wear that and that. And then you can wear that. Like there is, there's so much, y'all. There's so much, but it all starts with your perception and your ability to tap in, right? So let's get into this book because I want to go through these Lovebusters real quick and kind of give you guys something to take away so that we're not just shooting the breeze, which I can do all day, y'all. Just so you know, I can shoot the breeze all day. So I'm going to go into this book. If you got on our YouTube, you can see that. If not, the book is called Lovebusters. And let's read the review. Overview. Here we go. Oh, they're not going to give me an overview? They're not giving me an overview. Okay. Okay. So in this completely updated and revised edition of Lovebusters, Willard F. Harley Jr. helps couples identify and overcome the most common habits that destroy the feeling of love, including selfish demands, disrespectful judgments, angry outbursts, dishonesty, annoying habits, and thoughtless behavior. This book has had reviews on Amazon. Let's see, 183 reviews, mostly 5-star, 4-star. Let's look at what people have said about this book so you guys can really see. So this person's friend M says it really did help our marriage. I have bought over a dozen books on marriage through the years. They were all good, and I brought a few of them to read together at our bedtimes, but nothing stuck, and we didn't stick with it. It could be timing or just that this one is what we needed. I would say, hey, listen to this. It says, and then quote, quote, quote. And he was as interested as I was. This is the real deal. It is a part of a very expensive marriage seminar at our church. And when our schedule prohibited attending, I bought this and other components. We've only read a few chapters of this and skimmed through a bit more. The seminar leader had said it really will lead to the changes I was wanting. And sure enough, it really did. Make some key things plain for both my husband and me. I have to say it was a breakthrough, right? So this is the kind of gift that you can give your friends who are married or your friends who are in relationships that are long-term, just as a book for them to like literally dwell on, and even your single friends, because at the end of the day, we all want to be in a situation where we have a family or where we have folks around us that we love and appreciate. And this type of knowledge about things that can destroy the fabric of love, because love is literally what makes the world go around. It's what makes everything happen, right? If you are destroying that in your relationships, either their friendships or your relationships, that's not going to be a fulfilling life, right? And a part of the inner work that I talk about, where you're going into yourself and figuring out more about who you are, where you're from, your culture, what you should be doing when it comes to the spiritual side of life, what it comes to what you should be doing for the ancestors, for the folks that are still here, the elders, your kids, your spouses, all of that inner work is around understanding love and understanding how to give it in a genuine way. Like if everyone loved genuinely, there would be no crime. If everyone loved genuinely, there would be no reason for police. If everyone loved genuinely, there would be abundance of everything, because that's what the energy of love does. It's a vibration that just continues to be abundant. So knowing how to manipulate that in a positive way is what this book does. It literally forces you to like manipulate your life in a way where you realize that it's more important to not destroy love units as it is to just have the career that you want. I know I've spoken to my wife about this all the time. When we first was dating, I was like, listen, I have a career, but I've never put that before my relationships. And what I meant by that wasn't like, I'm going to quit my job to be with you type thing. No, it was always, if I had to choose between looking out for you and going to work, I'm looking out for you first. You know what I'm saying? That was always a thing. And I felt like that was an important stance to take because I've learned, I've seen relationships destroy themselves because folks put things before their partners. Like if this is a person you're doing life with, you should be able to give them a level of um, of time that they know is just theirs, that they can then relinquish to other people. And here's the beautiful thing about it, right? Because my wife knows that I don't put my work before her, it's her responsibility to make sure that I don't have to ever think about doing that. And what does that mean? That means that if you know that I have a deadline to hit and I'm not putting my work before you, what can you do to alleviate my stress at home so that I can actually focus more on getting my job done to come back and spend more time with you? As opposed to saying, hey, you have deadlines, but you need to spend time with me. So I don't care about your deadlines. I'm more important than that. So that can go away and you hang out with me. Like you see the approach? See, one takes into the consideration that jointly we need to win. So in order for that to happen, she's going to have to step up and do things that are going to assist me so that I can accomplish the goal that benefits both of us, and vice versa. When she has work and heavy, like a heavy schedule that's coming around or whatever have you, I'm always looking at ways that I can alleviate her schedule. Why? Because I want to. Because I want to make sure that if you have deadlines, well, how can I free you up to get those deadlines completed so that you can spend more time with me? I'm not going to monopolize my role as your husband to say, hey, I'm the big man in house. Whatever I say goes. You're working right now. I don't care. Put that away. Let's watch this movie. Let's spend some quality time together. That's a selfish demand. And it talks about this in the book. Like you can't do that just because you have the leverage as a partner, as a spouse, as a husband or wife, doesn't mean that you use it in a way that is selfish. And once both parties are looking at mutual agreement on everything, which is like, okay, whatever we do as a couple, we both have to agree to it. And if one of us doesn't agree, it's not happening. That was a concept that my wife and I had we had an argument, whole throwdown argument about that. And I was not budging. I'm like, yo, if we don't both agree, it's not happening. Period. Let's come back to the table later on. You can think of different ways. I'll think of different ways, maybe assist. I don't care to assist because I don't like this idea. So you convince me. Like I'm the one that needs to be sold on this because I'm not for it. If you don't have emphatic agreement by both parties, you shouldn't be doing it. That is a concept that this book talks about. I'm like, yo, we were arguing about that like 2 years ago, and look at that, and I think for us, baby, do you remember I think it was about piercing our daughter's ears at a young age. I wasn't for it. She wanted to do it, and I was like, I'm not here for that right now. And to me, again, what this book talks about, it says that both parties have to give their support for the idea. If both aren't emphatically for it, then it shouldn't happen. And in that time, I was like, yo, no, I don't want anything going in her ears right now. I want her to be old enough to decide that. I'm not comfortable piercing her ears until she's ready to do that for herself. And that was just me. I don't know why I felt that way. That's just the way I felt. Could have been, I don't know. Like, I don't know why I felt that way. This was the beginning of COVID. Like, I'm like, I don't want her getting her ears poked in some strange place where people can be coughing and breathing and doing all kinds of stuff. I don't even want her in a hospital. Like, let's no, I'm not, or in some jeweler with shady equipment. Like, I'm not, something about it, right? But again, what the book talks about is that until that person, who would be me in this example, was like, okay, fine, let's do it. Until they're there, it shouldn't happen. And any partner that decides to push through with that and not even consider their spouse, that is a selfish demand. And that's actually acting independent, which will take away love units from the relationship. So this is a perfect live example of that. So let's say that my wife now decided to go and pierce her ears anyway, regardless of my discontent with it, whatever, went and did it anyway, right? If I came home and saw my daughter's ears pierced and I was not in agreement with it and it happened, how do you think I'd feel as a husband, knowing that we just had a conversation? We weren't on the same page. I didn't agree to this. You went and did something without telling me, and now I see the results. My daughter's ears are pierced, and I didn't want that. Do you think that I'm going to love her more or less? Because there's always going to be love, right? But does that take love units away from her, or does that add units, right? That's all this is about. Like, this book literally breaks down love to a balance and understanding that your actions can do one of two things: increase that balance or decrease the balance. That's all your actions do. The more you increase that balance, the more love your partner will have for you. The more you decrease that balance, the less love they'll have for you, and it'll lead to infidelity and cheating and even and divorce. It's that simple. So he breaks this down, and this is really good for men, I think, because a lot of men that I know, we don't understand the power of our words and the power of how we move in a relationship. Like in this house, as the husband in this house, I try not to yell ever in this house because it's just, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't feel comfortable having my daughter hear me scream at the top of my lungs at anybody in here because that's not the energy that I want to have her have in my home. Like that's just not a thing. But there are other folks who scream and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to join that. Why? Because there is, as a man, we have very loud voices and we can be heard if we want to be heard. But just because we can be heard doesn't mean that we should do that. You know what I mean? I'd rather save that for someone that's breaking into my home and me yelling at the top of my lungs saying, get the hell out or I'll shoot you. Like I rather my voice be used for protecting my family than in this house in just because I can yell. And I've seen a lot of guys who don't realize that, as men, when we raise our voice at our women or at our kids, it has an emotional traumatic like result from that. Like there's an emotional traumatic response to that. Folks break down and they get defensive and they get into reclusive forms and like love units are flying out of them. Like they're just like that. I can see now how something as simple as raising your voice in a conversation or taking digs at people or personal digs or whatever, how that can impact your ability to feel love for someone, right? And that's across the board. And even in the office, like at work, I've had directors who've yelled at their workers and I'm like, yo, you don't get to yell at people here. That's not something you get to do. And unless you like, is who's yelling at you? I'm not even yelling at you. And I'm telling you that I'm the one that's your supervisor, supervising you and reprimanding you. And I'm not even yelling at you. So why do you think you can yell at your workers? As a matter of fact, you're suspended. Like that's how I move. Like I don't need to yell at you to evict judgments on what needs to happen next. And I think as men, it's important for us to take that stance and to take our position in these familial roles to understand that the we are the protectors, and that doesn't just mean physically, it means emotionally too, right? We're here to protect the ones that we love, and you can't protect someone if you're verbally abusive. And people don't realize that verbal abuse is something that happens both ways, men and women often. Like verbal abuse is a thing that happens in our community, black and brown communities, way too often, way too often. And that's something that we need to fix as men because I feel like we have the control and the power to make sure that we're only loving on our women and our children in a way that they can not feel that defensiveness. All right. So this right here. So we're going to go into what selfish demands. We're going to go through these ones real quick. We only got 9 minutes. I'm going to run through this real quick. So selfish demands, what is that? So a selfish demand, according to the author, is essentially any request that you make of your partner that they feel is demanding. So it's not even about what you think it was. So let's say I ask my wife, hey, babe, I need you to cook me dinner right now. That's a selfish demand. Why? Because I'm not considering what she's doing right now. If she's busy, if she's not busy, if she's ready eating, not eating, I'm not considering anything about her. My request is specifically to benefit me, and it may not benefit her. She may have already eaten dinner. She may already had put together some stuff, and I'm like, hey, make me something special. So the selfish demand is always from the reference point of the person answering. So if I ask you to do something for me, period, if you feel like it's a selfish demand, then that's what it is. So it's up to me to then rephrase my question or come back to the table in a way where I am not coming off to you as demanding you to do something of me or do something for me. So let's say for this dinner example, right? If I say, wife, cook me dinner tomorrow, that's a selfish demand if she feels like it is. If she says that's a selfish demand, I'm not doing that. Okay, cool. I'll come back 5 minutes later and say, hey, babe, what do you want me to make you for dinner tomorrow? And as a matter of fact, I think that maybe we can do it as a couple. Maybe we can do like a little couples activity where we cook a nice dinner for each other. Let's what do you want to eat tomorrow? Let's cook together and make something for each other for dinner. How about that? She might say, sure, that sounds great. I'm still requesting to have a meal made. I might be able to bait and switch and tell her, hey, here are the ingredients. You make this better than me. Can I just watch you make it this time? Like there's ways to get what you want when it comes to a request. But if you're doing it in a way where the other person is losing out, then that is a selfish demand. The example in the book he had was a wife who had in-laws that had just literally just got married and they lost their home. And they moved in with that couple and she didn't consult the husband at all, just moved them in. And the husband's like, yo, you didn't even consult me on this. Well, I don't know where they were going to go. They were going to be homeless. What do you want me to do? We have to help our family. So she basically forced her family into their home, into their specific space where now they don't have their privacy. They don't have their home the way that they would want it. They have people that are there that they don't want, that he doesn't want there. And he's like, yo, like, this is bad. I'm leaving. Like, I don't want to be here. And her selfish demand, which was forcing her family to come and live with them without asking him, right? That was seen as a selfish demand. And what the author said was those are the types of things that can destroy love. Her husband felt like he was disrespected. He felt like she didn't really care about him and that she put her family's needs before their relationship. And he was like, okay, I'm out, deuces. Another example of it was, and these are all female examples. I'm sorry, ladies. I don't have any male examples that I can think of. I'm just going off top of my dome. The one was a flight attendant. Well, she wasn't a flight attendant. She was something else. And she got a new job as a flight attendant. She literally came home and said, husband, I got this job as a flight attendant. Yeah. He's like, I didn't know that you were even trying to look for a job. What do you mean? Well, I got this job. She was out of the house 3 or 4 nights a week. Every time she came back, he was like, yo, what the hell? Like, I don't have enough time with you. Like, he was really upset about the job itself because it took away from their love time together. Turns out that she started seeing somebody on the plane and all this stuff was almost leading into infidelity. And she met the author and he became their counselor. And after that, he was like, listen, your job was one that you did out of selfishness. You did not consult him on that. And therefore, that's why he is losing love units for you, because you're not home and you're not contributing to the relationship. You're literally away, and that's leading to infidelity, right? So that part, so selfish demands is a very important thing for you guys to know in your friendships and in your relationships. Do not do it. And if you're doing it now, try to stop. Now, disrespectful judgments, right? That is when someone has, instead of them saying, hey, you why don't you clean up a little bit better? You're leaving a lot of mess on the floor. You say things like, hey, you're such a slob. Why are you so messy? Like, clean up after yourself. It's like, instead of you just saying something respectfully to get a result out of it that you want, you use digs and character attacks to get across. And that's a form of bullying and verbal abuse, right? So that's one. Angry outbursts, same thing. If people get upset and they start calling you names or they start screaming at the top of their lungs, anytime a relationship goes into a space where you're yelling at the top of your lungs with each other, that's in a space of angry outbursts. And that, again, removes love units from your relationship. So these are all little things that if you're doing them or if they're happening to you in your friendships or relationships, that's why your relationships aren't going to be where they need to be. It's because of things like that. Next one is dishonesty. When you can't be honest about, and there's something called radical honesty. In a relationship, people want to know what you're thinking, and they need to know that, because if they don't, they can't fix anything that's wrong. So if you have, for example, let's say that, you think that your husband's getting a little fat, right? Getting a little chunky around the waist, and it's no longer attractive for you. If you say, oh, and say, babe, how do you think I look? You're like, oh, you look great. Just keep up what you're doing. Dad bod 2.0. Right? If you keep, and then as he gets bigger and bigger, you're like, wow, like, you're getting fat. Like, but I keep telling you that you're fine. And I keep lying to you saying, oh, it's okay. I don't want to have you feel insecure about yourself, as opposed to radical honesty, which says, hey, husband, you're getting a little thick. I need you to go to the gym because I need you to live long. And the higher your weight to height ratio goes, the less likelihood you'll be able to live long, because you might have a heart attack or, any of the other diabetes, things that are connected to BMI. Like, you could have an actual honest conversation about the fact that you don't like that your husband's getting fat. You can say that. And this author is saying that the more radically honest you are about the little things, the better your partner can actually help solve those problems with you. So, for example, I know I've had a lot of radical honesty with my wife about many things, which I will not discuss here because I'm not stupid. I got 3 minutes left and I got a whole lifetime of a marriage. I'm not dumb. So let's just say that we've had conversations. Now, if any of those radically honest conversations that I've had were ever done in a disrespectful way, where I'm digging at her or coming at her crazy, whatever, and I'm yelling and doing all stuff, then she would just leave me. It's that simple. But the way I do it, I'm like, listen, I don't like it when this happens. Can you please next time help in this area or that area, or do this or that or the third? If you can't, that's fine. But just know that I don't like it when you do this. And if the more you do that, the better your relationship gets, because you give the person an opportunity to improve on their positioning. That's important in a relationship, right? So to me, it's those little things that you have to really look at and say, wow, is that something that I can do? Right? Being dishonest. So we talked about all of those things. I told screen down because we're almost done. I think, did I get them all? I don't know if I got them all. Let me see if I got them all. I think I did get them all, right? I did dishonesty. What's the last one? And independent behavior. Okay, annoying habits is the last one. Annoying habits. Who wants to live with a dripping faucet? So that's when people do annoying things. Um, and that one, there's a whole strategy on that. So I won't even get into that one right now. But there are certain annoying habits. For example, let's say that you have a person in your life who, you know, always leaves stuff out and you want that stuff put away. Like, yo, that's an annoying habit. Can you put your stuff away? And the thing that the book says is that annoying habits can be unlearned. So don't let that be the reason why, you know, your relationship doesn't work. Because you can learn and unlearn good and bad things. You don't have to be that way. So when you attribute those annoying habits with your partner as if it's a part of them, you're doing yourself a disservice because your partner can unlearn them and you can help them do that. And what you do is you take a list, you make a list, top 7 most annoying things your partner does, and say it respectfully. And then you work on them one at a time. Literally, just go down the list. He says 3 at a time, but I say one at a time. And go one at a time and just work on each habit. From something as slouching over in the chair to cleaning up after you shave, like whatever it may be. Like just have them work on that one habit until it's gone. And then boom, your list gets shorter and shorter. And less annoying habits your partner has, the more love you'll have for them. It's a very simple connection. And then independent behavior. And that's a love buster. That one is when you do things without the consideration of your partner. So it's a simple, and that's like the example of when that the wife had gone and taken a job as a flight attendant, didn't tell her husband, or when the other wife decided to move her family in without considering her husband. That was an independent type of thing because she didn't consider her husband's ideas. She didn't care about that. Or let's say that, you know, you like to go to the movies, or no, let's say you like to go to live music, right? And your partner doesn't. You say, okay, you don't like going live music, but I do. So I'm just gonna go by myself and you can do whatever you want. Independent behavior. The goal for building love units is to do things together. So let's say that I like movies and you like live music. Well, I'll come with you to live music and you come with me to movies, and together we're together. So we're building love units doing that. And we're both learning about each other because, again, if you don't learn with your partner over time, your relationship will die. If you don't learn with your kids, your relationship will die. If you don't learn with your friends, your relationship will die. So there is a level of learning and a level of growth that occurs in every relationship that is successful. And this book talks about it completely and thoroughly. So for all the newlyweds, Coldplay, what's up, brother? Nice to see you in here, man. You and your lovely wife, we met you guys in Jamaica. What's going on, brother? Nice to see you. So yeah, Mr. Ward, what's poppin'? Todos pa mi gente, my people, what's going on? Nice to see Kung Pao. Crystal, what's up? Nice to see you, dear. Good to see you. Anatis say, I can't even say it and I want to say it. Welcome. Thanks for coming through. All right, we got some folks in the house. Carly Kane. Oh, what's up, Carly? How you doing? All right. So yeah, so you know, relationships need and require you to continue to grow with them. So always make sure that you make a point to, you know, find ways to not just do things independently by yourself. And I know even in my relationship, like I play basketball, my wife doesn't, right? She's not really a sports person like that. She likes to watch it, but she doesn't play it. So I'd go play ball with my boys all the time. So for me, it's like, okay, well, how can I adjust that? Maybe I can say, hey, babe, I'm going to play ball on this day. You want to come? She'll probably say no, but at least I made the request. And I think that's what's important. Like there are things that you will make a request on that may get declined, and that's okay, but you're open to it and you're being upfront about it. And those are the types of things that you should still do. So for example, I know my wife went to a party, a costume, like family thing. And I was like, I'm not going to that. But she asked me. And the beautiful thing about it is that she actually asked, she wanted me to be there. And that was what made it okay. Let's say she was like, yo, I'm not even going to talk to him. I'm just going to go and do my thing. Hey, you watch the kid, da 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 da. That would be an independent behavior that would probably lose love units in our marriage because you didn't even consult me before you went and did something. So the goal is no matter what you're doing, you want to get buy-in from your partner. And it's not to the point where they must say yes. No, it's to the point where you want to just address things with them. That way they're not in the dark about anything and you can move together knowing where the other person is moving. Because the thing about radical honesty is if you're going to be upfront about everything, nothing that adds love units by itself. Just being radically honest, by you just being yourself and speaking your truth to that person, letting them know how you feel about everything, it adds love units to your relationship, which is a positive thing. And once that happens, you're building, right? So even if it's constructive things, you say it in a respectful way, you say it in a loving way, and you continue to grow. That's the goal. No one's perfect, but everyone's working on it, right? So, folks, that's the time we got. So um, the book is called Lovebusters, and it's on Amazon, and it's written by Willard F. Harley, best-selling author of His Needs, Her Needs, which is the sister book to this book. That was the book that we read first in our relationship, and this is a book that's a spin-off of that book. His Needs, Her Needs is just a book talking about the different needs between men and women in a marriage, and how you have to make sure that, for men, it's about respect. For women, it's about intimacy and loving them and loving on them, right? But both of those things need to be there, or else they go, So it's a good book. I recommend to folks who are either looking to get married or looking to be in relationships. Understanding the needs of people that you want to be with is a really good thing. So that's that. So, folks, we're done. So yeah, I appreciate all of you for joining us today. Hopefully that was insightful and you picked up a few things along the way. Again, that book is Lovebusters by Willard F. Harley. Definitely take a read, take a listen. Make sure you get that into your library. It's going to be a good book for all of you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I got. So what you guys got for me? Auntie Bev, thanks for sharing. I'm getting the book. Oh yeah, listen, I think that's just a beautiful book, period, full stop. All right. So yeah, all right, folks. So thanks for joining us. I appreciate you guys. And again, we'll be on next week. I think I actually have a pretty power-packed December. I got a couple of guests that are going to be coming on that are excellent. And I think that when you'll know when we come through, but it's going to be a conversation with some professionals about education, about entrepreneurship, and about the difference between starting early versus starting late when it comes to your career path. So we're going to go through it and talk about it and discuss it. So hopefully that'll be beneficial to folks. And yeah, in the meantime, again, you have your homework assignment, which is go find out which direction the sun is rising in tomorrow. Message me, put it at the bottom of this when you see the sun tomorrow, tell me what direction it rises in, and just write it at the bottom of this live. I want to know who did it. All right, folks. Deuces, peace out, and again, continue to love on each other, be grateful and thankful, and keep that energy the way it's supposed to be, because this life is not guaranteed. You don't know how much time you have, but just make the best of the time you got. All right, folks. Love you, value you, appreciate you. Until the next time, peace. All right. YouTube. All right, y'all. Hope you guys found value in that. Yeah, this is our series on relationships and just life. So hopefully that was useful for you. And that's my shirt. I know you couldn't see it because of the angle, but it's Dad shirt. Best title I got. So folks, we'll see you guys next week. Be good to each other. Be safe, and my finger will be healed by then. So hopefully we're all good. All right, y'all. Deuces.